Greetings, Articulture listeners, and welcome back to another stupendous episode with me, your host, Bray, and in the booth, as always, Brian over there.
Hello.
Hello. And today, I have a very, this is actually the first Articulture episode where I will be living up to the title. We have art, we have culture, but in the true definition of the portmanteau, I will be connecting all of this back to agriculture in the long run. So,
Farming.
Yes, farming and, environmentalism, going out in nature, doing that stuff. Anyway, we're going to connect everything together. So today, I will be talking to you about camp. Not with tents and out in the forest, although I might touch on that anyway because I love to camp, but I also love to camp, as in the sense of, the ironic, let's say, edification of artifice that camp is. Do you have a more easy to digest definition of that?
No, not really. I mean, I would say excess for the ironic excess.
Yeah, ironic,
perhaps.
irony, and okay. So basically, before we get into all that, let's just define camp for people who don't know. So camp is a sort of style / sensibility / standards or perception of standards that has to do with irony, with seeing things that are not necessarily the opposite of what they are, but taking things for something else. So a famous quote, I am using Susan Sontag's 1964 essay, Notes on Camp, which is kind of where camp was really defined in written academic way.
Yeah.
It had been a thing for years, back into the 1700s.
Yeah.
And back into there, it had always been a thing.
Yeah.
But never solidified onto paper in an academic format, and Susan Sontag was the first to do that. So I'm using a lot of her definitions and explanations when I am referring to the, definitions of camp. Mm-hmm. So how I would put it, surmise it for you, is that camp looks at the exaggerated artifice of our world and kind of connects that to how we view everything else. And it's also kind of an explanation on the human. It's very humanistic. It's very separate from nature. Nature cannot be camp because it is nature.
So you mean humanistic in the philosophical sense?
Humanistic in the philosophical sense of our flaws and our idiosyncrasies and our character is really what makes us enjoy being a human. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of another big focus. Camp can be stylistic. It can be in art, in a sense, something can be campy. It can look camp, and someone can be camp. It can be a verb, an adjective, a noun, all these things.
As English words tend to do.
As English words tend to do. So if I'm giving you an example of a campy movie, I don't know what y'all have watched. I know a lot of camping movies, but I don't know what y'all have watched. But some good examples would be The Room, if you know The Room.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know The
what?
Room?
Okay, yeah. In a certain sense of the word, yeah.
In a certain sense of the word. And The Room, to me, is a great way to start this because it exemplifies one of my favorite aspects of camp, which is that pure camp can only be naive. Mm-hmm. It can only be done with absolute honesty and try. It has to be something that is coming from a place of pureness that when executed is bad. Like,
so it has to be like authentically trash.
authentic trash is the purest form of camp because there is no it's like Sharknado isn't camp.
No.
Because Sharknado is trying to be camp.
Sharknado, like the people who made Sharknado at some point have
wanted
to
it to be that.
This is so bad.
They started with like, we want to make something campy. We want to make something bad.
I've had like this exact thought with bad music.
Yeah.
Like there is music that is just like painful to listen to,
Mm-hmm.
but if they made this and they didn't know it was bad, this is so cool.
Exactly. That is camp. That is camp. That's my kind of area of camp. Is the sincerity, and it has to be sincere, coming from a real place. Tommy Wiseau, who directed The Room, really thought he was making the best drama that has ever existed in cinematic history.
100%.
And failed miserably and on every count. And that's why it's good.
I don't necessarily think Tommy Wiseau, to this day, knows The Room is not a good movie.
And that's why it's perfect. Because there is a sense of authenticity and sincerity to the trash that is being displayed on screen. And then take that thought, that action, if we're taking that as like a thing of like coming from an authentic view, putting it up and not doing it well, kind of encapsulates a lot of what people like about camp.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes into the edification of artifice, where it's like we really, campy things are usually like old movies where everything looks super fake, or like if we go to modern day examples, like Sabrina Carpenter, I would say is very campy.
Part of her aesthetic, certainly.
Part of her aesthetic is very camp because it's an exaggeration of this fake kind of woman
and it is
persona.
It's kind of in like intentional bad taste.
Intentional bad taste, also being like very like, I'm wanting to be a woman, but I'm wanting to be the the most hyper feminine version of what a woman can be. That is also very camp. And on the anterior side, I guess I should say, WWE wrestlers are camp. Because it's
I agree.
hyper masculine presentation of like, no man would ever be like this. No woman would ever be like Sabrina Carpenter in real life, like in your everyday. But when you're presenting that kind of like artificial womanhood, this artificial manhood, it becomes like its own category of camp.
I think there, just to push back a little bit on the no woman would ever be like that, no man would ever be like that. I think that's not necessarily true.
Not necessarily. I mean in the presentation of people like natural. It's not natural.
The people who are like that in real life, like sincerely and authentically, are so like vanishingly rare.
Yes.
That most of the time you see someone sort of as, exaggerated of a persona, as large of a persona as like Sabrina Carpenter. Most of the time it's someone sort of playing that up.
Exactly. That's kind of where, exactly. You're hitting the nail on the head there and clarifying my statement a bit, and I appreciate that. Because when I say no one would ever be like that, I say it as in no natural person is naturally like that in their very bare state.
Yeah.
They put on the performance, they put on the costume, they put on the regalia of I want to be this. Because being natural and keeping up the poise of naturality is so hard. And that sometimes a release from that is the artificial construction of what your persona could be.
And I think getting back to that kind of like naive versus intentional.
Yeah.
The key of what I think I want to hit on here is like, if you are naively, like just purely in your head, if like using the example of The Room and Tommy Wiseau, if you genuinely think it is completely normal,
yes,
and 100% socially everyone around you is going to just like think that's normal, to be a person who is like as exaggerated as Sabrina Carpenter kind of presents herself to be,
right,
you are truly a specimen.
Pure camp.
Yes.
You are pure camp.
You are someone to be celebrated.
Yes. And that goes into another note that Susan Sontag put on camp, is that it appreciates character. It appreciates over exaggerated character, someone who can be exactly what you see is what you get, and in a very like pigeonholed way where I can see you and be like, oh, that's exactly, they're going to be like this, they're going to be out, they're going to be big, bolsterous, and all these kind of, it's the character, it's appreciation of character. And when I say character, I mean, I'm using Sabrina Carpenter here because it's a modern example.
Yeah.
But if we look back, like, I would say Mae West is kind of the first demonstration of this kind of female hyperfemininity kind of thing. Like, and what Susan Sontag also notes is that camp can be it comes from two sides. It comes from the naive, the pure camp, and then there's taking it like you're being campy, you're taking it up to the 11th, you're being artificial, and you're using it to your advantage of your kind of personality display or character display. You're either taking it 100% from the knowledge of what you're doing is fake, or you're taking it from you're naively just like that. Those are the two most like expert levels of camp. The most like where we say those are the most successful levels.
They're the most min-maxed levels of camp you could possibly be.
Yes. And where you get where things don't associate as camp fall into that middle category if they're trying to be that but aren't like they're not going 100% balls to the wall with it.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, it's like a little bit, but I'm not really committing to the vision.
Yeah.
Like commitment is a big thing about camp. Like you got to go all the way with it.
Yeah. There's no such thing as too much.
There's no such thing as too much. And if you think you're doing too much, then you're not camp. You're not in it.
If the thought even enters your mind that you might be doing too much, just stop.
Leave it at the door. Like that's not it. And also the what she describes as the antithesis of camp is seriousness and tragedy. And nothing ever tragic will be camp because that is like camp is about enjoyment. It's about spectacle. It's also a standard of how you view things. So something that I can see as good could be like when I talk about there's a movie that me and my friends watch called Latter Days. It's this gay movie that's like bad.
Yeah.
We like it and think it is good. I legitimately think that movie is good, but not because it is a good movie. It is because when you see it and you see it demonstrated, you're like, oh, I know exactly the person who made this and what they were trying to do, and they're doing it to the 100% ability that they can in their own way. You see the idiosyncrasies of humanity when you have something campy, as opposed to something like Oppenheimer. It would be like the antithesis of that.
Yeah, it's like very serious
art. We're doing drama. This is exactly what this is, and I can appreciate that as well. But someone with my sensibilities who craves that kind of breaking down of seriousness and of humanity and wanting to see the real people, and to me, real people are odd and eccentric and have weird things about them that don't make sense.
Yeah.
And when something kind of embodies all of that, I really am probably more drawn to it than I am going to be something that is pure kind of just art, beautiful, made to be art, made to be appreciated, made to be high culture.
Yeah.
Sometimes isn't as drawing to me as something that is like that, like campy, something that has kind of a personality to it, I think.
I think something I'm going to kind of compare this to is like songs I understand like are very good, but that I do not like to listen to.
Right.
Versus music that is like in like my the critical part of my head, I'm like, wow, this isn't very good, but I really, really, really like listening to it.
Exactly. And I have tried to illustrate that throughout my whole life.
Yeah.
Of being like talking about these literatures, big, classic literatures, classic films, classic music, all these kinds of big forms of art where you're like, yes, it is good because we know it's good because people have said it's good. Checks all the boxes of artistic, moral beauty. It's checking all those boxes.
Yeah.
And I can acknowledge that and look at it and be like, yes. But for my personal enjoyment, something that may be less good, quote unquote, good, can be more enjoyable because it sheds light on the human experience in some way, or has some character about it that is much more, entrancing to your everyday life than something that might be a little bit more cold and removed from everyday life, I would say. And whereas I would say that she brought up Hitchcock in this.
Alfred Hitchcock.
And I would say Alfred Hitchcock is not camp.
No.
Because Alfred Hitchcock is serious.
Yes.
And very, there are campy elements in the styles of some of the movies, especially Rear Window has a lot of...
But some of that is just
some of that's just the time.
Yeah.
And what she goes on to say is that camp really gravitates towards older aesthetics, not because they're older. They could be from any time.
Yeah.
Or they could look any sort of way. It's the fact that it's removed from the reality of the contemporary. Mm-hmm. Is that it's something that it's not mainstream. It's not what everyone does. It's not, what is stylish. It's something that you're bringing out from the old and into this area. And through that, you're making a statement about, the things that you enjoy. You enjoy whatever. And kind of separating itself from the narrative of the culture as a whole. So this, as we've kind of just described basically the feeling of camp, it's a very hard thing for me to describe in words because it's really a feeling.
You kind of have to know it when you see it.
You have to know it when you see it. So when I'm making all these illustrations with my words, I want you to think of the feeling and not necessarily the words, because if you get trapped in the words of irony and camp and sensibilities and whatnot, you'll get trapped in the weeds of words. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to make sense because you're going to be like, this is a thing, but it's not a thing, and it's not the opposite.
I think with something that's...
Sometimes it can be.
Something that's so tied up in, the personal experiences of the people involved in it, it's kind of difficult to, talk about that scientifically and talk about that...
because there's not a lot of words that effectively describe it to the nth degree. And I think when we try to describe it like that, it takes away some of the magic.
Yes.
So really, I'm doing this for the benefit of people who don't know, or if you just want a more clear definition, like I did. That's why I read Notes on Camp, was because I know what it is. I know in my head what it is, but I wanted to get more of a solid, articulated understanding of what it was, because I just really was interested in how to think about it in that way, separate from just I know the vibes.
Yeah.
Going into the other part of my research that I did for today, I watched a video essay, more lowercase video, uppercase essay, more someone just they wrote an essay and they're talking about it in a video, by Claire Craig, called "Why Everything Feels Like a Drag Show Now." This uses Claire Craig uses the Notes on Camp to kind of define the eras of which camp is become very popular, or the kind of overarching narrative of the culture.
If I just had to take a wild stab, would it be at times of massive social upheaval?
Yes, it would.
Who could have guessed?
Who could have guessed that when things are very tumultuous and uncertain, people want to gravitate towards things that are artificial and enjoyable and out of time, out of place. You want to be disconnected from reality, basically.
You look at recession pop.
Yes, exactly.
The late 2000s, the perfect example, that's Lady Gaga's whole entire first two albums.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You look at the 70s.
80s.
And
the
80s. The 70s and 80s.
Hyper...
Yeah, where everyone is kind of going, oh my god, we might get nuked into the Stone Age tomorrow.
Let's just, get our hair big and wear crazy outfits.
And wear shoulder pads and do a lot of substances.
Yeah, exactly. So... that is where like bringing camp into the real world or into the cultural zeitgeist is not a new thing. But I think the point made in this essay is that now, maybe it's just because we're in the present.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because we're in the present, because we don't live life, we live it linearly.
Yes.
We only know what we
Most
know.
people do.
We only compare things to what we know. And a lot of our generation grew up in times where the camp sensibility was not dominant because it didn't need to be.
Yeah.
It was more of the like, not whining generation, but the more we won, and now what? Or the terror generation, which was after 9/11, where it's like, oh, everything's real, and we're all gonna like, what's going on?
Defense economics people would call a peace dividend.
Yes, peace dividend.
The 1990s into about 2001.
Yeah, of where we're like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
We don't have a purpose. We beat the thing.
Yeah.
We overcame the thing. Now what?
We in certain way won, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now what do we do?
That taken over by, and what I realized last night, I mean, I already knew this, of course, everyone knows this, but really putting a like highlight on this is that 9/11 is one of the most historically pivotal moments in American history.
Yeah.
It is a real turning
yeah.
point for culture, for government, for our attitudes, more than anything else up to that point, I think.
For how we look at George Bush historically.
Right. I mean, it's more just we were a country together on our own, acting against other countries, but that was the first time we had ever been acted against from an outside power.
That's false. Pearl Harbor.
On mainland soil.
So what now? Hawaii is not part of the United States?
It is, but there's a distance in the cultural mind. There's a distance that's created. It is an attack on American soil, but it's not.
I'm kind of poking
soil.
there, but yeah, there is a difference between New York City and a military base in Honolulu.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it wasn't the first terrorist attack, but it was the one that was very much a turning point of that. Hey, we are not invincible.
Yeah.
We are not isolated on our own, acting against others. Others can act against us as well.
Yes.
And I think that takes us down kind of the path that we've gone down now.
Yeah.
Where we're two sheets to the wind, and
things are happening.
Things are happening, and we're much more defensive of ourselves, much less helping of others.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a thing that is happening. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying good or bad either way.
It was like, okay, I think 9/11 prompted a very strange return to what I would call like aggressive isolationism.
Right, which didn't Woodrow Wilson really like that? I think he wanted to do
Woodrow
that.
Wilson.
Oh no! Woodrow Wilson wanted to be no. He wanted to be
Woodrow Wilson wanted
the victory. He wanted to
exactly
be
the opposite of
like
that.
bringing Jesus to everybody. Like he wanted to be like we're gonna
whole thing
Americanize
was,
everybody.
I believe he said America should be a shining city on a hill.
Yes.
Right.
And now we're kind of in the opposite.
9/11, I think, brought America very much into the. Sometimes you will hear people say the world's policeman. I disagree. I think the United States at this point is more like the world's like mob boss you pay protection money to.
Yes, because we understood that it's kind of after it. I feel like I say that. It's kind of blah blah blah. Shut up. It's like the sunny 50s versus the harsh reality of the 80s, being like, oh, we can do anything, we're great, and we should just spread our greatness to everybody.
Yeah.
And then once something happens to you and you don't feel that safety anymore, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, what are we going to get? Well, now we have to be more, kind of have our like little poker hats on and be like, well, what's the trade-off? What do we get? How can we benefit, or how can we be protected?
Yeah.
How can we maintain ourselves, because we are not immune to the outside forces, which I think we never thought we were, but there was never that never happened before, so we always were like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah, in a very real
It's all
way.
it's over the pond. All that stuff's over the pond. We're helping.
In a very real way, the United States has legitimately, in living memory, only ever been attacked seriously in a way that could potentially have harmed people in America twice.
Exactly.
And it was 9/11 and Pearl Harbor.
Right.
And the only other times that has happened was 1812, when the United States was not even 50 years old yet.
Right.
So
It was sobering.
yes,
For the culture.
yes,
And not only did it change, again, political and whatever, social, it also changed politics. It also changed culture and how it views itself and how it views everything else.
yeah,
And that's where we kind of get the drop off of the kind of that era of what do we do now and into, oh God, we get to the Bush era and it's like, oh God, everything's horrible. What do we do? Can we do anything about it? See, I fight you on this. I don't think that the 70s is camp. The 70s is camp after the fact. But during the fact, it's very serious. It's very much like or 60s, 70s. We're wanting to make change. We are very serious. And we're serious in our goal of that. And we want everyone to know that. And the 80s is the response to that, which is, well, okay, now we could get bombed at any moment, or we could get whatever. We're in a Cold War. Let's get out of here. Let's go to the stars about it.
I think the reason I sort of posited the 70s, right, is you have like a major social change in America, where mostly down to like the public's reaction to like Vietnam and Watergate,
Right.
where like just socially, what was considered like absolutely things you could rely on, you can no longer do.
Right.
And I think you made a very good point. Like, in retrospect, the 70s is camp.
Yes, because
In the
we look
time,
at
it
it
was not.
because it's out of time.
Yeah.
Because it's exaggerated. But when you're back and you look at footage from there, or you watch movies from there, it's a transitional period.
Disco was a serious music genre.
It was a serious, and Death to Disco was like another thing. Also,
yes.
it was like a response to everything. It's a transitional period of protest.
Yes.
And this has happened, and now we've seen this happen again, which is a really interesting reflection, I feel like, in the modern day and then now, where we had a period in like the 2010s to like 2020-ish.
Yeah. I'd say like mid 2010s to like early 2020s.
Which would be, I would say, our protest time of this time. I mean, also the Bush era was more protest, but then after the Bush era, you move into the recession pop, and then after the recession pop, you move back into the protest, which is like, hey, this is unjust. These are the things that are unjust. We're changing it. We're serious about it. We're bringing everyone together. You kind of have a lot of that Obama. I would say it's kind of Obama generation, Obama era brought camp into the mainstream.
Yeah.
But by doing that, it made it very serious and very political in a sense that it's a protest.
Yeah.
Of like gender identity, of we want to be who we are, which is for camp, but it isn't camp because of its seriousness and its sincerity and its actual action for something to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you figure out that you can't do anything, after you sober up from the protest, then you're like, oh, I'm going to party all night. I'm just going to whatever. And that's kind of where we're at now. After 2020, after the pandemic.
Here we are in the second Trump presidency.
And my God, can we do anything? We tried. Did it work? No. So now let's just like have a good time and embrace the artifice so that we can distract ourselves from whatever horribleness is going on.
Yeah.
And that is where we get into, Sabrina Carpenter, Chappell Roan, all of these, like, I feel like now the culture is very campy again.
I agree with you.
The politics are campy now.
The politics are ridiculous.
It's become even more of a theater than it had become ever before. And I think it's part of as we're talking about the systems, the back and forth of the protest and the sober up, and then we have the, camp up again where we go out on the party. it's like we've done that so many times that now for anything to feel like okay to witness, it all has to be in sort of a camp vision. In sort
we have to like layer like meta irony.
I have to meta irony everything so that
Yeah.
it feels okay to ingest because it's also horrible.
Like sincerity has become like so
Blasé.
yeah.
It's sincerity is just, it's so real. I don't want to talk about it like that. And fair and part of the human condition. And also where my dichotomy on this issue and why I wanted to talk about this today really culminates. Because yes, I enjoy the political antics just as much as the next guy.
Yeah.
But you also do have to look at it as kind of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Or as where it's like, oh God, what does this mean for us and how we view reality?
Yeah.
When we have so much artifice in front of us and distracting us or filtering it through artifice, how do we perceive reality after that?
Yeah.
How much are we willing to remove ourselves from it that we ignore the effects of what really happens? And that takes me to my agriculture part of the camp discussion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In a article called "The Suicide of the West" by Alton Chase, he talks about this lady named Rachel Carlson who wrote a book called Silent Spring, which was one of the first modern kind of doomerist environmentalist texts.
Pessimistic, perhaps.
Pessimistic, where it's saying, here are all of the things that are wrong. Here's what people are doing to degrade the environment. And in, 10 years, everything will be destroyed if we don't do something. But it's more leaning on that horror.
Yeah.
On the existential threat of natural disaster. And their point on this, now I don't agree with the whole article because it goes into some more like environmentalists are bad takes, which I don't agree with. And I'm not entirely on the side of Rachel Carlson either because she didn't do her research and got her facts wrong, which she shouldn't have done. And I don't love fear-mongering in general. But I agree with the sentiment of the article when they say fear-mongering will only bring about the suicide of the environmental movement. It's saying, oh, we're going to push so much bad, so much fear for you to, people love to talk about negative things. They love to talk about it in a negative sense. It's just where our brains gravitate towards. For some reason, we love to do that. And so to sell things, you want to be more negative.
Yeah.
But when we talk about, especially the environment, in such a negative way, in a doomerist way, if I'm using more of a less academic term, doomerist, we all know what that means. Like a doomer. You
just broadly replace it with pessimistic, and you sound much more academic, and it means the same thing.
Right, exactly. But I'm going to say doomerist because it's
more fun to say.
It's more fun to say, and it's also more illustrative, I think, of like modern Gen Z culture, I would say. When we stay on that path and we start to ingest things that are, this horrible environmental disaster and it's horrible and we can't do anything about it, it leads about to people being nihilistic about it and being more like, well, why am I going to help if it's all going to be, dead in 10 years? Why am I going to do anything about it? How can I help? All these companies are polluting millions and millions of gallons into the atmosphere, into the ocean every day. What are my actions going to matter? And through that, it leads to uninterest in conservation. It leads to uninformation about conservation. And it also leads to a disillusionment of reality. And I think all of this goes back into our camp discussion because nowadays, if we want to view everything, and these are my two dichotomies of myself. I love camp. I love the style. I love how I love just everything about it. It's one of my favorite things. I am, defined by it in a certain sense, because that is my culture. Look at me. This is what it is. I love it. I'm so into it. But there's also a part of me that is, the environmentalist inside of me, the natural. I wouldn't say environmentalist. I would say naturalist inside of me, who appreciates the natural world, who understands that climate change is real.
Definitely
Things are happening. There are, and it's all man-made, and we should be concerned about all of these things. But there are so many amazing research projects, amazing movements, especially in like soil health and holistic range management, that are doing so much to reverse processes like desertification, and also leading to us incorporating more natural environments in urban landscapes that are benefiting a lot of like our food production, water retention, and the natural processes of the world. I mean, we're doing a lot of good things. And I think when we lean on these kind of campy sensibilities, we get blinded. And also with camp comes kind of a dismantlement of
searching for the words.
Searching for a word. I'm searching for a word. It's a dismantlement of detail, where we start to, everything's a drag show. Everything's over exaggerated.
I see what you
So
mean.
the environmental crisis being a crisis and being bad is over exaggerated to be like it's death to everything.
Yeah.
And I think that blinds us to the reality that there are things that we can do. There are things that are happening that are positive. And I think it leads us to being blind to reality. And whether that is a good thing or a bad thing, I don't think it's a bad thing, because I think we need to be blinded to reality to live as people in the, socio-political time that we live in, which is very stressful for a lot of people. And if we had to dwell on our stress, we probably would not want to function in society. So yes, it is good, and good for a release of tension, release of, escaping to a fantasy world, constructing outfits that are very fun. It's very, you look at the Hunger Games, they're in a, I think that's such an accurate depiction of a dystopia, because everything is horrible, and yet all the upper class is like regaled out in these crazy outfits, and they have these crazy things, and that's all a part of camp, where they're separating themselves from the horribleness around them by, blinding themselves with artifice.
Setting aside my logistical complaints about the Hunger Games, I think that's a very good, I think it's a very apt way of looking at it.
Right. And on a surface level, camp can only exist in a aristocracy, in the upper echelons.
Yeah.
Because when you only have, you only have boredom, ennui, you only have all of these things, that is the time that you go and retreat into this artifice creation of things that are crazy and, like, describing things, and, like, camp. Like, getting so detailed in the minutia because you have nothing else to do. But nowadays, there is a difference. I think there are two categories. Part of the camp that I dislike, the what we would call, I guess, straight camp, if we look at politics and mono, we don't have a monoculture anymore, but what would be considered the monoculture of things that everybody knows. We would see that, yes, that part of the aristocracy is still used and is still needed for a lot of straight conforming people to know what camp is. But if you fall outside of that line, camp is a escape into a better world for yourself. It's an escape from the, judgment or from the impossibilities that your either, perception of who you are maybe what you are and how people see you don't match up, and you want to over exemplify that. And that camp can help you get there without coming from a higher order, being more like privileged in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that social camp is going to be more beneficial to society as a whole, because it doesn't come from blinding yourself to reality. It's conforming reality. It's coming into reality as what you want yourself to be viewed as. And I think that melding of, when we go back to our environment talk, the melding of what is real and how you want to be perceived in the real world, that's my kind of camp, I think. Instead of molding the world, making the world camp so that you feel safe inside of this artificial bubble while the world burns outside. And I think that's where our culture is going at the moment. And I don't like that as much because it's very scary, and I don't like the separation from reality.
Yeah.
But I want to bring our campy selves into the real reality, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I
You know what I
definitely
mean?
get where you're coming from.
Cultivating a sense of identity instead of a sense of like comfort, where it's more internal and less external. But what we're seeing now is everything, the bubble of the White House looks like Versailles now. Like everything's crazy, like whatever. All of that is just like noise to distract you from what's really happening so that you're not horribly depressed all the time. But I think that we don't have to be horribly depressed by the reality of the world. I think we can go out with the protection of camp on top of us instead of putting camp onto the environment or our environment.
So
basically.
Yeah. I think I get where you're coming from on that.
Yeah. And that's kind of just, I mean, that's really what, I mean, do you have anything to add on this certain situation?
I think the place you wound up, I agree with.
Mm-hmm.
There are points where I was kind of like, then
Right.
we got to a point where I think my understanding of what we're talking about is like fundamentally it falls like there is like an internal sense of this.
Yes.
Where it matters about you personally.
Yeah. And your own understanding of it.
Yeah, conforming like your perception of reality to what you want it to be, and not conforming everyone else's reality to it.
Right.
Right. So it's like a very, like, I'm gonna use the word individualist. Some people don't like that word.
Some people don't like that word. I think you can be individualist and also be collectivist at the same time, but while prioritizing your own.
I think it's a very individualist way to look at a subject like camp.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Because I think it's gotten so collectivist.
And also, I think to a degree, when something like camp becomes sort of applied to things it never originally applied to, and by this I particularly mean like very, very, very mainstream things.
Exactly.
Because camp sort of exists in a pantheon of like genres and forms of media and forms of expression that, at least historically speaking, have never been mainstream.
They're usually described as either being apolitical or outside the stream of politics and social norms.
Because generally, camp in the modern sense is very hard to separate from, like, at least historically, right? Which is how I tend to view things. Very difficult to separate from like the historical LGBT movements and things like that.
Yes, they're the main proprietors. We are the main proprietors.
Someone like John Waters.
Yes, exactly.
Shout out to him.
while it is not inseparable, it is separatable from the LGBTQ movement.
Clearly,
but
yeah.
that audience is one of the main proprietors
Yes.
and builders
Yeah.
that keep camp alive.
Yes.
And that's why I also mentioned straight camp,
Yeah.
because there is that, but it's very different. Yeah.
Yeah. I think something like camp in its sort of original, or not original, but in older forms does not necessarily need to be viewed as individualist or collectivist or necessarily political
Yeah.
in any way.
It's supposed to be outside of all of that.
More than its creator's existence is political.
Yes.
Right? But I think that we live in a world where, because things have gone the way they have, and because we live in a world where camp and its sort of aesthetics and its like very exaggerated view of reality have become very, very, very mainstream.
Have become reality itself.
Yeah. Then we get into like the subjectivity of perception. I don't think you want to talk about that, and if you do, we will, because I'll talk about it at length with you. But like the example I'm gonna give, have you seen? And if you haven't seen this picture, it's completely fine. I don't expect you to know this. The wall outside of the Mussolini's like fascist headquarters.
No.
It is a like large 4-story building that has the word SI printed in like black and white. So a black S, white I. Literally the one side of the building to the other, it's just C, all down 4 stories, and then in the middle is Mussolini's face. That kind of like, I'm going to use the word hideous exaggeration of reality is not necessarily dissimilar to what camp is doing.
Right.
And I think you use the word like straight camp or like a mainstream camp.
Mm-hmm.
When you apply like a genre like that to like a mainstream, highly politicized or highly socially volatile art, I think you leave the genre entirely.
Yes.
Or you leave the
100%
intention behind camp entirely. It stops becoming an escape from an oppressive reality and starts contributing to that oppressive reality.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're helping me kind of formulate my own thoughts on this, really. I think the individuality is basically what camp was built on, of character, of over-exaggerated character, of personal idiosyncrasy. And I think now that we've gotten into collectivist camp, I guess that's what I'm calling it, collectivist camp, it ceases to be real camp.
Yeah.
And more of a borrowed, as we say, the trickle-up entertainment effect.
Yeah.
You know that? All of the things that mainstream finds as entertaining started out of the mainstream and, becomes popular as more people use it.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what's happened here. On a psychological level.
Yeah.
Of just this, people like this, people like exaggeration, people like this. And we've built it up so much that there's a collectivist camp, and the only way to combat it is through individualizing camp and its aesthetics. Taking it into your own, not informed. It can be, it's always informed by pop culture and culture as a large, but informed by your own perception. And then going into the real reality with that perception of your own campiness.
Yeah.
As opposed to being a person in a campy world.
Yeah.
Which is just you in a world, because the camp has gone out of it. We're using that as kind of, we've already gotten it. It's been stretched so far. It's become a thin, ozone layer, and now everything that could be considered camp can be commodifiable, and everything is sold to you. So nothing is, sort of sacred anymore. So I think now you have to find your own camp, and I think that's really important for how to view a positive future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find your camp.
Find your camp. All right. I think that's gonna do it.
Yeah.
For me today, and I'll leave y'all with that. I'll leave you with finding your own camp, internalizing it. Don't go, and I'm not Jesus on the cross. I am not a perfectly perfect figure when I talk about this. But separate yourself from the people who are telling you what to think.
Yeah.
And think about what you like and how you want to express it. And formulate your own sense of camp. And I would even say don't even read. You don't have to read all of this stuff. You don't have to do this research that I've done.
Yeah.
I've done this purely out of interest. Because I knew what camp was before I read about it. Because it's a feeling, it's a vibe. So you just have to go and find your own sense of that, separated from mouthpieces who are telling you what to think. That's all. I mean, and that's basically what I'm doing. But
I think there's a separation between going like, here's my observations, here's my thoughts, here's my perspective, and someone going, here is the perspective.
Exactly.
I think
that's what
the
we're getting.
Phrasing matters.
We're getting a lot of that now, and I think to get away from that would be much, much beneficial to your not only mental health but also your sense of reality. You know, a lot of people are depressed. A lot of people are struggling with their mental health because everything seems crazy and bad. But sometimes when you step away, things are still crazy and bad, but in a more digestible way.
Yeah.
When you experience it through your own eyes, I guess.
Think critically.
Think critically. Think critically, not cynically.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will see you guys next time, and I hope that y'all have a delightfully campy week.
Huzzah.
Huzzah.